Tonight, we have breaking news from the scene of a serious incident at Seaton.
Millions right now on edge as tropical cyclone Alfred creeps towards the coast. Special coverage from the danger zone.
7 arrests after an armed brawl at Para Hills. Another moment of youth gang violence. And now authorities are set to get tough.
Slow start. How missing out on breakfast is seeing SA kids fall short in the classroom.
Plus, sports star Sam Powell-Pepper reveals why his comeback season has started with heartbreak.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Kate Collins and Brenton Ragless.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news. Part of a Seaton street is right now closed off as police and paramedics respond to an assault.
One man is being treated there at the scene for serious injuries. It's where Josephine Shannon is. Josie, what more do we know?
Kate, we know that there's been a serious assault between 2 men here at the property behind me on Min Street East. Police say both men are known to each other, with the fight breaking out just after 4 this afternoon. One of those men is being treated by paramedics for serious injuries, while the other is assisting police. We also saw a woman taken into a police car and spoken with. This is what neighbours had to say about the commotion here this afternoon.
I usually walk mornings and evenings here, and I have often heard some screaming from that house.
Police are still trying to figure out exactly what has unfolded here this afternoon. Anyone who may have witnessed the incident is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Brenton?
Josie, thank you. From Brisbane to Byron Bay, the anxious wait continues tonight, but Cyclone Alfred is taking its time.
The powerful system which has forced millions of people to hunker down now isn't expected to hit until Saturday morning.
The seas are boiling off the Gold Coast, catching out one woman who nearly lost her dog in the storm surge. Currumbin Surf Club, and the waves are inching towards the road. At Snapper Rocks on the border, 2 boys nearly washed away. Wave watching is becoming dangerous.
It looks like Hawaii, like people get swept off the beach all the time, so if you're anywhere near the ocean, just keep your eye on it.
Alfred, still brewing off the coast, has spooked an entire city. 1,000 schools closed, the Brisbane CBD a ghost town, empty offices with public transport shut down.
Feels like COVID, but eerie and strange.
There's literally nothing open, even Hungry Jack's is closed.
A steady number of airlines, including Qantas, have stopped using Brisbane Airport in anticipation of winds exceeding 100 kilometres an hour. Already Alfred has whipped up an ocean of sea foam on North Stradbroke Island of Brisbane. While many were getting off the island, Becky Maloney returned.
It won't stop them breaking, but if they do break, it will be less dangerous and the clean-up will be easier. Won't be looking for shards of glass for months afterwards.
This is the cyclone viewed from the International Space Station, and monitoring Alfred's every turn and twist, the National Situational Room in Canberra.
You can see a bit of a change since yesterday. It's slowed down significantly and nearly stalled overnight.
The cyclone might have stalled, but it's not weakening. Now set to smash the Queensland coast Saturday morning. The PM announcing the Army is on standby with a fleet of high clearance vehicles.
I intend operating out of here for coming days. Is probably the best place I can be to make sure that there is seamless activity between New South Wales and Queensland.
South of the border in Lismore, there's growing anxiety over how high floodwaters could reach. From 9 o'clock this evening, the Lismore CBD will be evacuated. Premier Chris Minns is stationing himself in the region to ensure those who need help get it swiftly.
We want to walk the path with the Northern Rivers community, the people of Lismore, in the event of the worst happening.
By this morning, some parts of the North Coast had already received up to 250 millimetres of rain. This afternoon, the situation is rapidly evolving. The SES issuing dozens of warnings from Gloucester on the mid-north coast to Tweed Heads, and already some communities are being ordered to evacuate.
I haven't seen anything like this since COVID, really. The last time the park was empty, we sort of looked around and thought we'd never see it like this again, and here we are, the park's empty.
Mark Burrows, 9 News.
And Nine's Davina Smith is on the Gold Coast tonight. Davina, you have developing news on the cyclone forecast.
Yeah, Brenton, good evening to you. The Bureau has updated its mapping and its forecast for Tropical Cyclone Alfred. It is on a collision course for Moreton Island to hit the mainland of Brisbane, just north of the CBD, around 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. If it does that and then breaks down into a rain band and dumps a huge amount of rainfall through the inland parts of Brisbane, it means that's over the catchment areas, and that would stand a repeat of the 2011 and 2022 floods. Here on the Gold Coast, they call this the calm before the storm, and that is a worry, because if the Gold Coast is going to be subjected to another day and a half of this before the storm hits, well, that's a real worry. There are lots of people out and about this evening watching this spectacle unfold, but in breaking news, the Gold Coast City Council has just issued a warning. They have told residents to prepare to take shelter. They do not want people out and about on the streets tomorrow.
Davina, thank you. Let's go now to Claire Todd-Hunter on North Stradbroke Island. Claire, is the community there ready?
Well, as we just heard, Cyclone Alfred is making a delayed arrival into the Queensland coast. And that has been a relief for a lot of residents here who were feeling prepared, but now have that extra time to get even more ready. It's hard to imagine that the conditions will deteriorate even more than this. These winds are getting so intense, and the swell as well. If I can actually show you the damage that the swell has done to the beachside along here, it's washed up a lot of sea foam that we heard about from Mark, but also a lot of debris as well. Some people were actually in there not too long ago picking up bits of debris and taking them out, even in these dangerous conditions. Police and Queensland Fire Department personnel have been down here as well in the last few hours, just doing welfare checks to make sure nobody's putting themselves in any dangerous situations. But Brenton, it's hard to imagine these things will worsen in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. Claire, thank you so much. All right, let's go further south into New South Wales. Now, Alex Heinke is in Byron Bay. Alex, what areas are of most concern?
Well, Brenton, we've only just found out in the last half an hour there are 10 suburbs in this northeastern corner of New South Wales, very popular holiday destinations. One of them is including Lismore. Evacuation orders have now been put in place. This impacts thousands of residents. They have been told to get their stuff and get out. If they do not leave before 9 o'clock local time, that's a little under 3 hours. If they do not leave, authorities say if the floods come, they cannot guarantee their safety. So, Kate, things are changing rapidly by the minute here in northeastern New South Wales.
Alex, thank you so much for the update. A street brawl in Para Hills Street has ended with 7 arrests and 2 men stabbed, with police now saying there are links to a youth gang. Terrified residents locked themselves inside after spotting one person jumping fences with a large knife.
Surrounded in a school car park, it's the end of the road for a gang of youths behind a violent and terrifying stabbing that saw 7 arrested, 2 taken to hospital with stab wounds.
We have information that informs us that at least 3 of those young people are connected to a youth gang.
Residents on Warrigal Street first raising the alarm at around 3 this morning after a man was seen jumping fences, allegedly in possession of a weapon.
One of was having a kitchen knife, and he was trying to jump over the fence, and he was saying I will kill them all today.
Just hours later, police and detectives shutting down the street, bagging key evidence as crime scene investigators follow a trail of blood, the aftermath of the assault.
Maybe it's this big. It's a kitchen knife, but it's a bit big. I was very scared. I couldn't say, even when I was ringing the policeman, I was very scared. I couldn't speak to my normal voice.
It's understood an argument unfolded here in the home between a group of people that ultimately sparked the violent altercation, but it's unclear exactly what it was over.
I think our youth need a lot of support and they need to be connected to the community.
The alleged offenders, ageing from 17 to 25, were all refused bail and faced court this afternoon.
We'll do what we can to prevent it from happening, and we'll react swiftly when we become aware of planned attacks like this, or respond as quickly as possible when something like this does happen.
Kelly Hughes, 9 News.
And state political reporter Gus McDonald is here. Gus, the state government is really moving to crack down on youth crime just like this.
Yeah, that's right, Brenton. Today, a young offender plan was announced, which could see criminal youth groups treated the same as outlaw motorcycle gangs. It's in response to a rise in youth crime in the state, which climbed over 40% last year, and alarming rates of reoffending. Disclosed today, just 20 young people were responsible for around 11% of all matters before the youth court. The government proposal would see stronger bail laws and tougher penalties for young offenders with an existing criminal history, and a $3 million intervention program funded by money seized from adult crimes aimed at curbing reoffending. The Attorney General says they've moved in response to community concern, but the opposition argues it's months overdue.
All of these measures are designed to try and make South Australia as safe as it can be.
It's not as if they haven't had enough warning. I mean, where were these tough new laws at the Elizabeth Shopping Centre last year when teenagers were going around stabbing other teenagers?
A government roundtable will be held with stakeholders at the end of the month, with aims to have the legislation introduced to Parliament midway through the year. Kate.
Thanks, Gus. An e-bike rider has been rushed to hospital with serious injuries after slamming into a truck on Halifax Street in the city. It's understood the food delivery rider struck the tray of the vehicle, suffering neck injuries. It happened around midday near the intersection with Surfland Street. Police say the truck driver is assisting with their inquiries. Major crash officers attended and are investigating.
Dashcam vision has emerged of a terrifying road rage incident involving a rideshare driver tearing a windscreen wiper off a car in Adelaide South. It happened yesterday, the man stopping his car and getting out at a roundabout on Victor Harbour Road at Onkaparinga Heights. A post to social media claiming he became irate after the 21-year-old female driver merged her car in front of him. Police are investigating.
The search for a missing man in the Narcat Conservation Park in the state's southeast has today been scaled back. Stephen Bailey from Maipolonga was last seen leaving his Lobethal workplace at 3 p.m. on Friday. A search of the area near his abandoned car, 20 kilometres from the town of Keith, had involved the police helicopter, but now crews are searching only by foot. Stephen's friends say his disappearance is out of character.
A prisoner's been rushed to hospital after a stabbing at Yatala Labor Prison. Paramedics raced to the scene amid reports of a brawl just after 10:30 this morning. 9 News understands the victim was attacked with a shiv and suffered a punctured lung. He was taken to hospital under guard. The Corrections Department says his injuries are now being assessed. It's understood 2 prison guards were also injured.
2 workers have been threatened by 3 armed men in 2 terrifying armed robberies in the western suburbs. Our cameras there as police swooped on 2 18-year-olds, but tonight a 3rd remains on the run.
Speaking to a victim moments after 3 men stormed the West Croydon OTR armed with an axe. They fled with cash just after 1 a.m. when suddenly police get a call.
There's another one going now. We're going to go.
Another armed hold-up nearby.
Yeah. You know what one? Angle Park.
Just 5 kilometres away in Angle Park, a red Suzuki is seen steering onto the wrong side of South Road, heading towards the OTR. Staff there say 3 men threatened them with an axe and stole cash. It's at this point support from the sky takes over as the car enters Nichols Terrace in Woodville West.
Circling above, the police helicopter tracked the men as they got out of the car and dumped something at this building site. Police later recovering an axe, a pair of gloves and a cash register.
We just rocked up and the gate was open, and obviously I was the last one here last night, so it was definitely sharp.
Unfortunate, man, it would have been good if I found a bit of cash on site, but besides that, what do you do? I mean, hope they get caught.
Police leaving the second service station in a hurry again. 2 18-year-olds arrested on West Lakes Boulevard and charged over the 2 robberies. Will DeFulvio, 9 News.
Developing news from Melbourne tonight, a major security scare at Avalon Airport where a man armed with a shotgun managed to board a Jetstar flight bound for Sydney. The terrifying incident forced the terminal into lockdown, leaving fellow travellers stranded.
The moment fellow passenger and a pilot tackle a man who brought a shotgun onto a plane.
How is this possible?
The man wearing high vis put in a headlock, his pockets are searched. Once restrained, a flight attendant can be seen carrying the butt of the shotgun off the aircraft.
Well, I didn't realise at first. I saw the knife, but I didn't know he had a shotgun. He wasn't letting it go either.
It was the pilot who first noticed the weapon, alerting others to the danger after the man tried to get on the plane, avoiding security and arriving from the tarmac, claiming he needed to do maintenance.
How'd you get to the airport? Saw you jump it. How'd you get here? There was an old bloke knocked a young bloke to the ground. He did really well.
Other passengers, flight crew and ground staff helping to restrain the man. He's handcuffed by a flight attendant.
Just wait till you get a copper. I'm not letting this hand go.
He's my hero. Yeah, you got big balls.
The frightening incident happening just before 3 p.m. this afternoon on Jetstar flight JQ610 headed for Sydney. The entire terminal shut down as passengers were taken off the plane. Late this afternoon, the man was led in handcuffs to a waiting police wagon. Investigators now desperate to work out how a man with a shotgun could get anywhere near a passenger jet. Are you worried about why someone with a shotgun and a knife?
Yeah, that's all I've been thinking as to what was his intentions, but I don't think he really knew. He was off his nut.
Mimi Becker, 9 News.
Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu residents who are being impacted by record dry conditions now have access to emergency water collection points. The user pay services opened today in 3 locations, but initial uptake was low.
That pleases me because we want to know that people are actually managing their own water, that they're fine, that they're not so desperate that they're queuing around the block.
The collection points were introduced for those not connected to main supply.
A fresh blow for Ukraine, with the US pausing the sharing of CIA intelligence to the war-torn country. European leaders fear Russia will take advantage of America's changing foreign policy, and tonight are exploring the potential of nuclear deterrence.
First, the flow of US weapons into Ukraine was suspended. Now, so has the transfer of critical CIA intelligence.
President Trump had a real question about whether President Zelensky was committed to the peace process, and he said, let's pause.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky trying to fight his way back into Washington's good books. He's close to signing a Donald Trump-backed deal that would give the US access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. We're seeing forward momentum. We hope to see the first results next week, he said.
The president is committed to a peace deal. He wants to see this war end.
Do you worry that Donald Trump is about to hand Ukraine on a platter to her?
We need to stand with Ukraine in support of their national sovereignty, but also in support of the international rule of law.
Tomorrow in Brussels, there'll be emergency talks, the French president boosting military budgets and prepared to explore the idea of opening up his nation's nuclear deterrent to European allies in the wake of shifting US policy and fears of an emboldened Russia. Emmanuel Macron sounding the alarm in a prime-time televised address. Who can believe that the Russia of today will stop at Ukraine? Russia has become a threat to France and Europe. I deeply regret this, he said. Now the UK, France and Ukraine are finalising a strategy to end the war. The European leaders could present a peace plan to the White House within days, and this time Volodymyr Zelensky will potentially be joined by UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron in an effort to avoid a repeat of last week's Oval Office bust-up. Europe's future is not to be decided in Washington or Moscow, Macron said. But as negotiations continue, it's Donald Trump's diplomacy changing the game. At the White House, Reid Butler, 9 News.
The iconic Crown and Anchor Hotel is on the move. The East End institution will temporarily shift to the West End, while student accommodation is constructed next door to its current Grenfell Street home. The new location will be at the vacant Ed Castle Hotel on the corner of Curry and Grey Streets. The state government says the move will happen later this year and expects it'll be 2 years before it can move back to the East End.
Well, Rehn joins us now with a look ahead to sport, and tonight a big admission from Sam Pepper.
Yeah, Raggy, he's opened up on the emotional impact of Ken Hinckley's looming departure from Alberton, and a little later Pep welcomes us into his home and exclusively outlines his desire to send his coach out on top. Also ahead, why Neil Baum won't be pushing for any major changes at Westlakes, plus Shane Watson and the Little Master play Masters. The highlights as these legends wind back the clock.
Thanks, Tommy. We'll see you soon. In the news ahead, the escalating tensions that have the world watching.
A menacing message from China as relations with the US deteriorate. Those details are coming up.
Also, why Australian men are failing to close the housework gap despite both genders working longer hours.
And the Tamaryn twins, now on show at Adelaide Zoo. Tensions are rapidly deteriorating between China and the United States, with Beijing declaring it's prepared to go to war with America. The alarming words reflect China's fury over Donald Trump's trade tariffs and coincides with a dramatic boost to its defence spending.
China's President Xi Jinping commands the latest session of the National People's Congress, the calculated show of unity and strength, contrasting with the chaos caused by Donald Trump's treatment of America's allies and strategic partners.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people.
The world entering a dangerous new era, Beijing announcing a 7.2% increase to its defence spending after the US president increased tariffs on Chinese imports.
If war is what the US wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end.
A threatening message repeated by China's diplomats in Washington.
We're ready to fight till the end. As Secretary of Defense, how do you take that?
Well, we're prepared. Those who long for peace must prepare for war.
Australia's military preparedness tested by 3 Chinese warships conducting live fire drills and a circumnavigation of the continent.
That, God forbid, a war could happen.
Elbridge Colby, Donald Trump's choice for US defence policy advisor, saying Australia's defence spending is well below the 3% of GDP the President expects.
We need to get to 3% of defence spending because it's in our national security interests.
Our defence policy is to increase our defence expenditure. That's what we're doing.
China isn't the only defence challenge. Under Donald Trump, the US is retreating as Western Europe's security guarantor, which means all of America's traditional allies will have to step up if Russia is to be defeated. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
New research has revealed Australian men are slacking off when it comes to chores around the home. In fact, the survey says they're not doing any more housework than they were 20 years ago.
Running around with 2 kids, Courtney Galajore is exhausted.
Cleaning, shopping, cooking.
You must be tired.
Yeah, we're in the cusp of no sleep at the moment. Who does more work at home, me or Daddy? Mummy.
Turns out Courtney isn't alone. A University of Melbourne survey of 17,000 Australians finding while women are working significantly more than ever before and doing 5 hours less housework than 20 years ago, men haven't picked up the slack at home, despite spending slightly more time at their jobs. As for caring for loved ones, both are slightly up, with women still doing the heavy lifting.
Cleaning robots now, that might take a part of the work, but maybe some of the work is just not being done anymore.
How do you divide it up between the two of you?
I think probably about 20-60. Yeah, so yeah.
As in you're 20?
I'm on 20, yeah.
The research also shows men are generally satisfied with how the work is divided up, whereas women feel they do more than their fair share at home. So why aren't men getting their hands dirty? Well, in short, because experts say they want to work, even in the case of paid parental leave available when they have a child.
They tend to earn more than their female partners, and so a family cannot really forego much of the father's income for a longer time.
What's your favourite chore?
Can I start with my least favourite is I don't like bed making.
I'm lucky my partner works from home and he's also a very good cook and a fastidious cleaner.
Ollie Haig, 9 News.
Less is not more in this case. Well, Adelaide Zoo's 2 newest additions have gone on show. The cotton-top Tamaryn twins were born to 9-year-old Pepper only 15 days ago, but are already stealing hearts. Their species is critically endangered, with around 2,000 now left in the wild.
Well, music lovers are getting ready to flock to Botanic Park as Warm Adelaide comes to life this weekend.
Jessica Braithwaite, the sun will be shining all weekend.
Oh yes, Kate, the stage is set, the flags are up and we are getting ready for a big weekend of music here, but don't forget the sunscreen. That is my hot tip for you because it is set to be a hot one, that's for sure. Now, this iconic open-air festival of music, dance and art will feature more than 700 artists from more than 35 countries, and today we got a bit of a sneak peek with British composer Nitin Sawhney warming up on stage, and this looks like it'll be really specky. France's Johan Bourgeois Art Company stepping up to perform. These guys have worked on film projects with artists such as Coldplay, Harry Styles and Pink, and now it is Adelaide's turn to be part of the fun. Now, today was actually the coolest day of the week with temperatures in the high 20s, even though really that's still above average for this time of year. But from here we are warming back up again into the 30s. It is going to be a hot weekend, so I've got those details coming up soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Jessica. Still ahead tonight, breakfast boosting children's brain power.
The South Australian study revealing the link between their first meal of the day and nap plan results. We'll have those details shortly.
Also, a health update from the Vatican as Pope Francis marks a major religious event.
And Prince William's special visit to the hospital where his wife Kate was born. Children who skip breakfast have significantly poorer nap plan results at school, according to a new South Australian study.
Researchers now working to find out why thousands of kids across the state are missing the vital meal.
Breakfast time in the Foster household can be a struggle.
Morning's definitely chaos. We do try and start with breakfast. You can put it on the table, which doesn't mean that they'll necessarily eat it.
A new South Australian study revealing it's a story all too common.
We know that about 10% of kids are never eating breakfast.
And it's impacting South Australian students.
We found that those kids who skipped breakfast every day were much more likely to have poor NAPLAN results.
Researchers have unpacked the breakfast habits of around 30,000 NAPLAN students aged 8 to 16. Those missing breakfast altogether twice as likely to perform poorly in the numeracy category and 1.6 times as likely to underperform on reading tests.
So I think that we all know when we're hungry, it's really hard to pay attention. So I think it makes sense that if kids are going to school hungry, it's hard for them to make the most of those learning opportunities.
Researchers encouraging parents to make breakfast a priority, not just during NAPLAN week, but all year long.
Because it's likely to have long-term impacts for their success at school.
Reminding everyone, because we all have our lives, we forget those important things that breakfast starts your day well.
What's not captured in the study are the reasons why kids aren't eating, a key question researchers are eager to explore further.
For some kids it will be food insecurity, and those school breakfast programs are likely to be really good. For other families it may be other factors, like for older children it might be around body image.
Researchers now hoping to work with the government to boost breakfast routines across the state. Samantha Hogan, 9 News.
US President Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum to Hamas, saying the group is on its last warning and urging it to release the remaining hostages in Gaza. The president met with recently released hostages and said they'll be held to pay if Hamas doesn't set free those still being held. The White House, meanwhile, has confirmed it's entered direct talks with Hamas for the first time. Pope Francis has started Lent in hospital as his health continues to slowly improve. The pontiff is still in a stable condition, with the Vatican saying he spent the day in an armchair. The 88-year-old has not suffered any further respiratory failures, but still requires ventilation at night.
Prince William has paid a visit to the Royal Berkshire Hospital where his wife Kate Middleton was born to see the impact of funds raised by a healthcare charity. The royal meeting with staff to see how they're now coping 5 years on from the pandemic.
Everyone knows COVID now is, one of those moments we all look back on and go, God, how did we all get through that?
The NHS Charities Together organisation, which William is a patron of, has raised $325 million since the start of COVID-19.
Coming up next in 9 News, almost two-thirds of Australians with dementia are women.
What's fuelling this is now being revealed. Next, the new study into why women bear the burden more than men.
And he was a great at the court and later a legend in the commentary box. Tributes for Fred Stolle, who's died aged 86.
There are more clues tonight as to why the burden of dementia is more profound in women compared to men. A major study led by Harvard researchers found that a toxic protein in the brain builds up more rapidly in women.
Nell Hall's positivity masks her real struggle with Alzheimer's disease, which unravelled 5 years ago.
People often think that dementia, Alzheimer's, is about losing your memory. And for me and others, there are so many other things that you lose.
It also affected the 56-year-old's mobility.
Walking is a real problem for me. Fatigue is a major issue.
Nearly 2/3 of Australians with dementia are women.
There are more women who die from it because women live older, and this is a disease of older people. But even in the same age bracket, more women are affected than males, and that indicates that there might be some other process going on.
Research published in a prominent neurology journal found strong evidence in scans that women exhibit a faster build-up of a protein called tau compared to men. They cause tangles in the brain and are a hallmark of disease.
Build-up of tau that does most of the damage. So yes, a higher build-up, a more rapid build-up of tau in the brains of females is certainly a concern.
It's unclear what's driving it, whether hormones or genetic factors play a role, but the latest findings could pave the way for more personalised treatments. Drugs available overseas but not yet approved in Australia target the amyloid plaques in the brain, but it's only the beginning.
It's so important that we have research looking into this space.
We have trials of drugs that are removing tau or neutralising tau.
People concerned about their memory should speak to their GP or contact Dementia Australia. Gabriella Rogers, 9 News.
The sporting world is today mourning the loss of Fred Stolle, an iconic figure in world tennis.
Stolle had an outstanding career as a player, but became truly loved as a broadcaster of the game, both here on 9 and around the globe.
The images were black and white, but the era was golden for Australian tennis, and Fred Stolle held his own in a period when the likes of Rod Laver, Ken Rosewall and John Newcombe ruled the courts of the world.
One of the great Australian players. He gets lost because he was in an era of so many greats.
A tall man with a serve as powerful as his wooden racket could generate, Stolle won 2 Grand Slam singles titles, the 1965 French Open and 1966 US Open. He won another 17 major titles on doubles courts and was also a member of 3 successful Australian Davis Cup teams. His on-court temperament earned Stolle the nickname Fiery, but as a television performer, he was cool and calm. His analysis as accurate as a volley from his playing days.
Steffi Graf, what more can you say about Graf's serve? It's one of the best in women's tennis.
As part of Nine's Wide World of Sports team, he was a fixture on our screens for decades and was also a highly regarded commentator in America.
When I'm growing up and watching Wimbledon at home as a young kid, he's on the TV leading the coverage with Tony Trabert and with John Newcombe. They were the voice of Wimbledon for Channel 9.
For his services on the court and behind the microphone, he was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame and in 2005 received an Order of Australia. Fred Stolle passed away aged 86.
An absolute icon of the game that we're going to miss dearly.
Chris Hodgkinson, 9 News.
Well, sport is up next, and Rehn Sampal-Pepper has a point to prove.
Well, he's vowing to give it all for his coach Ken Hinkley this season, Kate, which is great to hear, admitting he was heartbroken upon learning he'd be stepping down. And up next, we're at home with Pep as he prepares for his long-awaited comeback, while SA can't quite capitalise as they look to lock in a home Shield final. Plus, Riley O'Brien already in career best form, at least on the golf course. Hello again. Power star Sampal-Pepper admits his heart broke when he learned this would be Ken Hinkley's last season in charge. But now recovered from a devastating ACL tear, the potent forward is determined to deliver glory to his beloved coach.
He's already got his hands full. Now Sampal-Pepper is jumping for joy once more.
Obviously got the 2 little girls now and another one on the way, so we're not sure what the next one's going to be, but yeah, we're really pumped and the girls can't wait either.
In a year cruelled by suspension and injury, the 27-year-old escaped the dark times of 2024 with the help of his family, capped off with a magical Bali wedding that even the coach attended.
Yeah, it was pretty special for Kenny to make the trip over.
It's a relationship that runs deep, with Pal Pepper admitting he wouldn't be where he is now without Hinkley.
Nah, probably not. I think he's helped me quite a lot on the field and off the field as well.
So it came as quite a shock when the club announced the succession plan that will see Hinkley hand the coaching reins to Josh Carr at season's end.
It broke my heart a little bit, I won't lie, because he's been my coach since day one.
It spurred Pep into action to deliver his mentor ultimate glory before he says farewell to Alberton.
I think I quickly turned that into motivation and passion and wanting to do something special this year, in honour of Kenny.
And anything feels possible with a revamped and dangerous small forward line that could prove hard to stop.
Personally, yes, I think so, because we've got such hard runners and they're very easy to coach as well, and we work so well together out there and we all listen to each other.
While he'll forever wear the scars of his ACL tear, there'll be no regrets nor fears come next Saturday's encounter with Collingwood.
If you can look back and see all the amount of work that you've done to get to where you are now, I think you can get a lot of confidence out of it. That's the way I think anyway.
Braithwaite Ingram, 9 News.
Well, Neil Baum says he won't be making any major changes as part of his new role on the Crows board. The director in waiting declaring the pieces of the premiership puzzle are already in place.
There's no doubt, if you look at this club, we're in a fantastic position. You're always going to be a strong club. It's the first club in Adelaide, out of Adelaide. You're always going to be financially reasonably strong because you've got great support. And it's just a matter of taking those next steps. And you convince yourself you can influence that. And there's no, great secret to it all. It's just a matter of helping everybody do what they're doing.
The Crows set for one final internal hit-out tomorrow before attention shifts entirely to their round one clash against St Kilda. With Cyclone Alfred throwing the AFL's opening round into disarray, the league has moved swiftly to reschedule its fixture. Chief football reporter Tom Morris has the latest.
Evening to you, Tom. It's been absolute chaos in the fixture department at the AFL. We knew that Brisbane versus Geelong would be in round 3. It'll be a Saturday night, 6:35pm local time bounce at the Gabba. That's not a huge surprise, but the real question was where Gold Coast versus Essendon would sit. Now, the current round 24 games, the Suns versus Port and Essendon versus Carlton, they'll be played at the start of the round, and that would allow for the rescheduled Gold Coast versus Essendon match to likely be played on the Tuesday or the Wednesday night as the last match of the home and away season, which of course opens up so many possibilities. AFL CEO Andrew Dillon said today, we had to focus on having the least amount of disruption on the competition, ensuring that all clubs have a mid-season bye and managing travel arrangements. So that fixture stuff is done. Hopefully no more cyclones beyond the next couple of days, Tom, and let's get the footy started.
Absolutely looking forward to it. Great stuff, Tommy. Well, meantime, Collingwood forward Brodie Myercheck has a point to prove this season as he prepares to make his long-awaited comeback. The veteran managing just 11 games in 2024 before injury ended his season.
The injury sort of made the hunger come back a bit. Missed a lot of footy and it was a bit frustrating, but you sort of learn what you're made of when you get those types of injuries and how you bounce back. So, hungrier than ever.
Elsewhere, number 1 draft pick Sam Lawler is closing in on a round 1 debut for Richmond ahead of their traditional season opener against Carlton. Let's get to cricket. South Australia's got a real fight on its hands as it looks to secure a home Sheffield Shield final. The decision to bowl first looked justified, but some poor fielding let the home side off the hook. That was in the opening session. The normally reliable Ben Menenti letting this one slip right on lunch.
Edge and drop. Oh, he's been dropped.
Now, thankfully, the fielding improved in the middle session. Henry Thornton and Jordan Buckingham finishing with 4 wickets each as the Vicks were dismissed for 285. SA then making a very shaky start to its innings, losing 2 early wickets before settling to reach 2 for 40 at stumps. Let's stick with cricket. Former Australian all-rounder Shane Watson has wound back the clock, facing off against India and the legendary Sachin Tendulkar in the International Masters League. Watto smashing a ton in the Aussies' 87-run win.
And that's going to be another one. And this time, it's gone a long, long way into the crowd.
Elsewhere, New Zealand will face India in the Champions Trophy final after beating South Africa by 50 runs in their semi-final. Well, they're an SA racing powerhouse, but the Adelaide Cup has so far eluded the McDonnell Lewis stable. That could all change come Monday's $350,000 classic, with Gotta Go Guru rated one of the best local hopes thanks to a stunning run of form.
Well, that's the thing. We don't really know her ceiling yet, I don't think. Obviously winning 4 in a row, and she's had 7 starts over 2,000 metres plus, and she's won 6 of them.
The barrier draw is going to be held tomorrow, and race day is set to be another hot one with a forecast top temperature of 35 degrees. And just before I go tonight, how good is this? Spending his day off on the golf course, Crows ruckman Riley O'Brien was as shocked as anyone to discover he'd hit a hole in one.
I can't see it. Oh! It's in! It's in! Oh my God! Oh! That is unbelievable. I'm the greatest golfer alive!
Oh, don't you just love it? Incredible scenes up at Mount Compass for Big Rob, but it's back to work tomorrow in the club's final internal hit-out. Hopefully, that is a good omen for things to come in 2025.
Right. Terrific. Thanks so much,
Good
Rehn.
stuff.
Catch you tomorrow. Take a look at finance now. The global benchmark oil price has fallen to its lowest level in 3 years, raising the prospect of relief at the bowser for Aussie motorists. Money editor Effie Zahos explains.
The price of Brent crude oil has slipped below $70 a barrel. And there are 2 reasons why. Global demand is falling. At the same time, OPEC looks to increase supply. And if Donald Trump's drill baby drill push works, well, even more supply is coming. Aussie petrol prices don't strictly track Brent crude, but the NRMA says we should expect some relief in the coming weeks. Woodside and Santos suffered the most from the price weakness, dragging the ASX down. Myer bounced after Morgan Stanley said its share price could double under new management. And the Aussie dollar, well, it jumped past 63 US cents as fears of US recession rises amid trade tensions.
Thank you, Effie. Well, another run of dry heat to come. Jessica has the long weekend outlook next.
Thursday, tomorrow's speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Loz tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic. Hello again. You know what? It's actually a really nice, cool and calm evening here in Botanic Park as we get ready to welcome Wome Adelaide back to Adelaide from tomorrow, and musicians and performers, of course, from all over the world landing in sunny Adelaide. And sunny is definitely the theme for the long weekend, heating up as well. So I'll take you through it. Today was the coolest day of the week, even though it was still above average. High 20s in Adelaide today, and right now it's around 24 degrees. Around the suburbs, we saw temperatures getting up to around 29 degrees through the northern suburbs, so it was there around that mark at Mawson Lakes. And a windy night overnight, especially in the foothills in the southern suburbs, winds gusting up to 85 k's an hour at Sellex Hill. And just on this prolonged dry spell, the Weather Bureau's drought statement out today shows rainfall deficiency for Adelaide and surrounds is at its lowest point on record. Statewide, winds from the southeast kept things from getting too hot today. It was 31 at Port Augusta and 30 at Clare. And lots of places in the south were in the 20s, like Nurriutpa with 27 and Murray Bridge with 26. On the charts, we are all watching Cyclone Alfred, and of course you can see it very slowly there closing in on southeast Queensland. It has slowed down, now tracking for an early Saturday morning landfall. So right along that stretch of Queensland, we've got the warnings in place. You would have seen there from Noosa in Queensland to Yamba in northern New South Wales. In the capitals tomorrow, conditions of course deteriorating in Brisbane, and then further south in Sydney, they are expecting some hazardous surf there. It's a warm and dry day statewide across Adelaide tomorrow. In fact, it's the opposite, really. There's not a drop of rain in sight, apart from right out west and north, where there is the chance of a rumble of thunder, and 38 the top for Port Augusta. 36 at Renmark and 32 for Mount Gambier, but cooler in that pocket just in around Victor Harbour there with 26 the top.
On local waters, southwesterlies to 20 knots in the morning, tending southeasterly late afternoon. So up go those temperatures across Adelaide tomorrow. Back up into the 30s, Elizabeth up to 35, Mount Barker 33. It's a warm end to the week in the city with 34 the top in the CBD and 17 degrees the overnight low. Then it gets even hotter. Saturday and Sunday both headed for 36 degrees. Monday hotter again, up into around the 37 degree mark. And even Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all looking to stay above 30 degrees at this point. So sunscreen, definitely remember that one if you're coming into Adelaide on the weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Jessica, thanks so much. That is all from the team for this Thursday. Thank you for joining us here on 9.
We'll leave you now with a current affair with further news updates to follow. Enjoy your evening.
Good night.